Ambassador Claire Martinez watched the holographic displays flicker as the Galactic Council chamber erupted in laughter. The sound cut through her like glass. 16 alien species, their representatives lounging in their gravity-adjusted seats, found humanity's proposal hilarious. You want equal representation? The Vraxian delegate's voice translator struggled with his wheezing amusement. Your species discovered faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. 3 years. My people mastered it before your ancestors left the trees. Claire's jaw tightened. Behind her, Commander Jake Morrison shifted his weight, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm before remembering where they were. The gesture didn't go unnoticed. Primitive, the Kellyan ambassador added, her crystalline form pulsing with colors that the translation software rendered as contempt. You fought wars over resources we synthesize in children's toys. Your longest space voyage before meeting us was to your own moon. The chamber's central platform displayed Earth's formal request: equal voting rights, fair trade agreements, protection under galactic law, standard stuff every species received upon joining the Council. Except humanity, apparently. The proposal is denied, Council Chairman Vexer announced, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. Furthermore, Earth's current treaty status remains. Restricted trading rights, limited territorial claims, and continued technological restrictions. Claire stood slowly. With respect, Chairman, those restrictions were supposed to be temporary. We've complied with every requirement you've set. We've shared our medical research, our agricultural techniques, our cultural beings. Your compliance is noted and irrelevant. Vexer interrupted. This council has spoken. Your species will remain under provisional status for another standard decade. Dismissed. The other delegates were already filing out, some still chuckling among themselves. Claire heard fragments of their conversations through the translation feeds. Backwards humans. Aggressive primates. Let them play Spacefarer for a few more years. Jake leaned close. Ma'am, we need to report this immediately. Claire nodded, gathering her files with mechanical precision. Her hands weren't shaking. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. But inside, something had shifted. She'd spent 2 years on this station, playing diplomat, following their rules, believing the system would eventually recognize humanity's worth. She'd been wrong. As they walked through the corridor toward the human embassy section, Jake's comm device chirped. He glanced at the display, and his expression changed. What is it? Claire asked. Priority message from Earth. Presidential level. He handed her the device. Claire read the message twice, then a third time. When she looked up, her eyes held something the Council hadn't seen before. Something that should have worried them. Get everyone to the embassy, she said quietly. We're going home, all of us, tonight, ma'am. They wanted to know if humanity would accept being second-class citizens in our own galaxy. Claire's smile was cold. They're about to get their answer. Within the hour, every human diplomat, scientist, and cultural liaison on Council Station began packing. No explanations, no goodbyes. The sudden evacuation confused the alien residents, but none of them thought to ask why. Humans were emotional creatures, after all, probably having another one of their irrational episodes. They would understand soon enough. Back on Earth, in a bunker deep beneath Geneva, President Linda Hayes stood before a wall of screens showing military installations across 6 continents. Beside her, General Paul Chen waited for the order they'd hoped would never come. Operation Exodus is green, Hayes said. Bring them all home. Chen nodded and activated the command sequence. Around the planet, in facilities hidden from orbital sensors and buried beneath mundane cover stories, lights began to flicker on. Technologies the Council didn't know existed hummed to life. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first alien ship landed. The Council thought they'd been teaching primitive humans how to reach the stars. They'd been wrong about that too. Ambassador Claire Martinez stood at the viewport of the last human transport leaving Council Station, watching the massive structure recede into the distance. Somewhere in there, the delegates would be receiving the news, reading Earth's formal declaration, realizing their mistake. By the time they understood what humanity had really been doing for the past 3 years, it would be far too late. The treaties they'd forced on Earth, The restrictions they'd imposed, the mockery they'd offered so freely, all of it was about to mean nothing. The transport's engines flared and they jumped to faster-than-light speeds, not using the Council's approved lanes or their registered beacons, using humanity's own network, invisible to Council sensors, built while they'd been laughing at primitive Earth. The war wouldn't start for another 72 hours, but in every practical sense, it had already begun the moment the Council made one critical mistake. They'd assumed humanity's compliance meant weakness, that following their rules meant humanity had no rules of their own. They'd forgotten to ask why a species that had nearly destroyed itself in nuclear fire multiple times had suddenly become so peaceful and cooperative. They'd mistaken strategy for surrender. Now they would learn the difference, and the lesson would be written in ways the galaxy wouldn't forget. Claire pulled up the tactical display showing Earth's true defensive network, 1,700 automated defense platforms, invisible to Council scans, 400 warships in hidden construction yards, weapon systems reverse-engineered from Council tech and improved beyond original specifications. All of it built in plain sight while the Council representatives smiled and patted humanity on the head. "How long until we reach Earth?" she asked the pilot. 6 hours using the new drives, ma'am. 6 hours. The Council's fastest ships would take 3 days to reach Earth using conventional routes. By then, every human asset in Council space would be gone. Every embassy evacuated. Every scientist returned home. Every trace of humanity's presence removed from their stations and worlds. And then the real message would be delivered? Claire opened a secure channel to Earth. "Mr. President, we're clear of Council space. All personnel accounted for?" President Hayes' face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Claire could see the command center buzzing with activity. "Good work, Ambassador. How did they react?" "They were still laughing when we left." Hayes' expression hardened. "They won't be laughing much longer. General Chen, status report." Chen stepped into frame. "All systems operational, ma'am. The defense grid is active. Fleet units are standing by. We're ready to implement the next phase." "Do it," Hayes ordered. "Send the message to every Council world simultaneously. Make sure they understand this isn't a negotiation." It was simple, direct, and would shatter 3 centuries of Galactic Council precedent. Humanity wasn't asking for equal treatment anymore. They were done asking. The message went out across every Council communication channel. Override protocols cracking through their security like it was made of paper. Every delegate, every government, every military command center in Council space received the same text simultaneously. Effective immediately. Earth withdraws from all Galactic Council treaties and agreements. All Council vessels and personnel have 72 hours to vacate Sol System and territories claimed by humanity. Any Council presence remaining after this deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Human shipping lanes, trade agreements, and diplomatic relations are terminated. Earth recognizes no Council authority and will enforce its sovereignty by any means necessary. You had 3 years to treat us as equals. You chose mockery instead. Live with your choice. No threats, no demands, just a simple statement of fact. Humanity was done playing by rules designed to keep them weak. The responses started flooding in within minutes. Confusion, outrage, demands for explanation, threats of military action. Council Chairman Vexer himself sent a personal message demanding Ambassador Martinez return immediately to explain this outrage. Claire deleted it without reading past the first line. "Ma'am," the pilot called out, "we're picking up Council military chatter. They're scrambling response fleets." "Expected," Claire said calmly. "How many?" "Initial reports suggest 12 battle groups converging on Earth. Estimated arrival in 70 hours. Jake whistled low. "That's over 300 warships." "Yes," Claire agreed. "It is." She pulled up another display, this one showing Council military positions throughout the galaxy. Impressive, certainly. The combined might of 16 spacefaring species accumulated over centuries of cooperation and conquest. The Council had enforced peace through overwhelming force for longer than human civilization had existed. They'd grown comfortable with that power. Complacent, Claire highlighted several key locations on the tactical map: Council military stations, shipyards, and command centers, all of them about to receive very unpleasant surprises. "General Chen," she said into the comm, "the Council is sending 12 battle groups to Earth. Estimated arrival 70 hours. "Acknowledged," Chen replied. "They'll find us ready. And Ambassador, the secondary operations are proceeding on schedule." "Good," Hayes interjected. "Let's make sure they understand just how badly they miscalculated." The transport dropped out of faster-than-light drive at the edge of Sol System, and Claire got her first look at Earth's defenses in full deployment. The automated platforms were visible now, no longer hiding behind stealth fields and sensor baffles. They formed a sphere around the inner system, each one bristling with weapons that would make Council military engineers weep. Beyond them, humanity's fleet waited. Not the handful of exploratory vessels and cargo haulers the Council knew about. The real fleet. 400 warships of entirely human design, incorporating every lesson learned from studying Council technology and improving on it with human engineering and innovation. The Council thought humanity's greatest strength was adaptability. They were wrong. Humanity's greatest strength was spite, the ability to smile and nod while secretly preparing to prove everyone wrong. 3 years of being treated like backwards children had given humanity plenty of motivation. "We're being hailed by Earth Defense Command," the pilot announced. "Put them through," Claire said. Admiral Susan Clark's face appeared. "Welcome home, Ambassador. I trust the Council enjoyed their last laugh?" "They did," Claire confirmed. "How are preparations complete? We're ready for whatever they send. And Ambassador, you'll want to see this. We just received confirmation from the field teams. A new display opened, showing locations throughout Council space. Dozens of them. Strategic positions humanity had identified over the past 3 years. Positions the Council thought were secure. All teams report successful infiltration, Clark continued. On your order, we can activate. Claire looked at President Hayes on the screen. The president's expression was grim but determined. The Council had every opportunity to do this peacefully. They chose contempt instead. "Admiral Clark, you are authorized to proceed with Operation Checkmate." "Confirmed, ma'am. Initiating now." Across the galaxy, in 16 different star systems, carefully placed human operatives activated devices that had been smuggled into place over months of meticulous planning. Not weapons, not bombs, something far more devastating to a civilization that relied on instant communication and coordinated military response. Network infiltration packages designed by Earth's best hackers and engineers erupted into Council military and government systems simultaneously. Within seconds, they began corrupting data, falsifying reports, and creating chaos in command structures. Council fleets suddenly found their navigation systems unreliable. Military stations lost contact with Central Command. Supply networks reported contradictory information about resource locations. The Galactic Council's greatest advantage, their unified coordination across vast distances, disappeared in minutes. Suddenly, 16 species who'd grown comfortable with easy communication found themselves struggling to coordinate anything. Their fleets, already en route to Earth, began receiving conflicting orders. Some captains were told to advance, others to retreat. Still others lost communication entirely. In the Council chamber, Chairman Vexer stared at the reports, flooding his display in disbelief. What are they doing? How is this possible? His military advisor, a veteran of 3 Council enforcement actions, looked equally stunned. "Sir, we're losing system integrity across the entire network. Every major hub is compromised. The humans, they must have planned this for years." "Years?" Vexer's 3 eyes widened. "They've only been in space for 3 years total." "Then they started planning the moment they met us," the advisor replied grimly. "Sir, we need to recall the fleets immediately. We can't coordinate a military response in these conditions." "Recall?" Vexer's voice rose. "We have 12 battle groups headed to Earth. Over 300 ships. You want me to turn them around because of some computer problems? Sir, these aren't just computer problems. The humans have systematically dismantled our ability to wage coordinated warfare. And if they did this, what else have they prepared? That question hung in the air as reports continued to arrive. Council worlds were cut off from each other. Military commanders couldn't reach their governments. Trade networks were grinding to a halt as shipping computers failed to recognize valid routes. In 3 years, humanity had mapped the Council's entire infrastructure and identified every critical weakness. And now they were exploiting all of them at once. Back on Earth, General Chen watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. Network infiltration is performing beyond expectations. Council military coordination is down to approximately 30% effectiveness. Their fleet elements are scattered and confused. President Hayes nodded. And our fleet? Standing by as ordered, ma'am. We have firing solutions on all approaching Council vessels, but they're currently holding position outside weapons range. It appears some of their commanders are smart enough to recognize a trap. Good, Hayes said. Let them sit there and think about it. How long can we maintain the network disruption? Indefinitely, Chen replied. The packages are designed to adapt and spread. Even if the Council shuts down infected systems, the virus will have already moved to connected networks. They'd have to rebuild their entire communications infrastructure from scratch to be rid of it. That would take years. Claire spoke up from her position at the tactical station. Mr. President, we're receiving a priority message from Council Chairman Vexer. He's requesting immediate negotiations. Already? Hayes raised an eyebrow. It's been less than 6 hours since we sent our withdrawal message. Yes, ma'am. I believe they're beginning to understand the scope of what we've done. Hayes considered for a moment. Put him through. Let's hear what he has to say. Vexer's image appeared on the main screen. The Council Chairman looked considerably less composed than he had during the session where humanity's petition had been denied. His ceremonial robes were disheveled and his 3 eyes showed stress patterns Claire had learned to recognize. President Hayes, Vexer began, his translator rendering his voice with barely controlled anger. This attack on Council systems is an act of war. I demand you cease immediately and surrender those responsible for trial. Hayes' expression remained neutral. We have attacked nothing, Chairman. We have simply withdrawn our technical support from your networks. Apparently, your systems were more dependent on human-designed components than you realized. Human-designed components? Vexer's eyes widened. We never authorized humans to work on critical infrastructure. You didn't have to authorize it, Claire interjected. Over the past 3 years, every human scientist, engineer, and technician you allowed into your facilities made small improvements to your systems, minor efficiency upgrades, helpful patches to fix bugs. You were so certain we were primitive that you never thought to question whether we might be more advanced than we appeared. The truth hit Vexer visibly, the technology sharing program. You were studying our systems. Studying. Improving. Preparing, Hayes confirmed. Chairman, you spent 3 years treating humanity as inferiors who needed to prove ourselves worthy of basic respect. We spent those 3 years proving we didn't need your respect. We needed your complacency. You gave us that freely. This is madness, Vexer said. You cannot survive alone. The Council maintains order across 300 systems. Trade, defense, resource sharing, all of it depends on cooperation. Council cooperation, Hayes corrected, not human cooperation. You made it very clear today that humanity would never be true equals in your system, so we're creating our own system. Your own system? Vexer laughed, though it sounded forced. You have one world, one species. You think you can replace what the Council offers? Admiral Clark stepped into frame beside Hayes. Chairman, allow me to clarify something. You currently have 12 battle groups headed toward Earth, 317 ships in total. Your commanders are requesting guidance because their navigation systems are unreliable and their communication with Fleet Command is sporadic at best. Would you like to know what they're facing? Vexer's expression suggested he wasn't sure he wanted to know, but he nodded. Earth system defense consists of 1,700 automated platforms, each equipped with weapon systems that exceed your dreadnought specifications by approximately 40%. We have 400 crewed warships using engine technology your scientists will spend decades trying to understand, and we have an early warning network that extends 3 light-years in every direction, built using techniques your sensors cannot detect. Clark let that information sink in before continuing. But here's what should really concern you, Chairman. That's just Earth, just Sol system. We've spent 3 years building infrastructure in unclaimed space and systems your surveys missed. We're not alone anymore, and we're not unprepared. Your fleet arrives in 66 hours. If they enter Sol system with hostile intent, none of them will leave. You're bluffing, Vexer said, but his voice lacked conviction. You cannot have built all of this in 3 years. Hayes leaned forward. Chairman, we built the atomic bomb in 3 years under conditions of global war. We went from first flight to landing on our moon in 60 years. We mapped our entire genome in 13 years. When humanity decides to accomplish something, 3 years is plenty of time, especially when properly motivated. And you've certainly motivated us, Claire added. Every laugh during today's session, every dismissive comment, every casual insult over the past 3 years. We remembered all of it. We used it. Nothing focuses human ingenuity quite like being underestimated. Vexer was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. The anger was gone, replaced by something closer to respect, or possibly fear. What do you want? Now we're getting somewhere, Hayes said. Here are our terms. First, all Council vessels leave Sol system immediately. Second, Earth's withdrawal from Council treaties is permanent and non-negotiable. Third, the Council recognizes human sovereignty over all territories we currently occupy or claim. Fourth, any future agreements between Earth and Council members will be negotiated as equals, or not at all. You're asking for complete independence and recognition as a peer civilization, Vexer said. The Council has procedures for this. It takes decades of evaluation. We're not asking, Chairman. We're telling you how things are going to be. You can accept it, or you can test whether we're bluffing about our military capabilities. But I strongly suggest you don't. Because if your fleets attack Earth and lose, every species in the galaxy will know that the mighty Galactic Council was defeated by the primitive humans they'd been mocking. Your authority would never recover. The threat wasn't subtle, but it didn't need to be. Vexer understood political reality as well as anyone. A Council military defeat would shatter the image of invincibility that kept hundreds of civilizations in line. But accepting humanity's demands meant admitting the Council had been wrong, that they'd underestimated a species so badly that those humans had outmaneuvered them completely. I need to consult with the other delegates, Vexer said finally. You have 12 hours, Hayes replied. After that, we assume your fleet movements are hostile and respond accordingly. The connection ended. In the command center, there was a moment of silence before someone started clapping. It spread through the room. Hundreds of personnel who'd worked in secret for 3 years finally seeing their efforts pay off. Claire allowed herself a small smile. Do you think he'll accept? He will, Admiral Clark said confidently, because he's smart enough to do the math. Even if the Council wins a war with Earth, the cost would be devastating. And they won't win. We've made sure of that. General Chen pulled up a new display. We're detecting movement in the Council fleets. Multiple battle groups are altering course. Looks like some commanders are making their own decisions about whether to continue toward Earth. Smart officers, Clark observed. They can see the sensor data. They know we're not bluffing about the defenses. President Hayes stood and addressed the command center. Excellent work, everyone. But stay sharp. The next 12 hours are critical. The Council will be debating whether to accept reality or try to salvage their pride through force. Let's make sure they choose wisely. She turned to Claire. Ambassador, start preparing briefing packages for neutral species. The ones who aren't Council members but are watching this situation will need allies going forward. Already done, ma'am, Claire replied. I've been compiling information for months. Several independent species have already expressed interest in establishing relations with Earth directly, bypassing the Council. They've been waiting for someone to challenge Council authority. We just provided the example. This is bigger than just Earth's sovereignty. This could reshape galactic politics entirely. Do bid